got away from prayer. So what is revival? What is revival? I know it's funny to me how God works, because God still shows me things that I've never seen before. But like today, this message could not be more apropos. When you look at our morning Sunday school lesson, I was just telling my wife whenever she was up here talking, I said, this message lines up with what she was talking about for Sunday school, and I had no idea what she was going to be talking about for Sunday school. That's how God works. God does some amazing things. Revival is a soul-searching, heart-wrenching, old-fashioned, heaven-sent holy revival. That's what our nation needs. That's what we need. Who needs revival? Do we as a church need revival? Would you agree with that? The old song says, revive us again. Fill each heart with thy love. May each soul be rekindled with fire from above. Old hymnal 469. I noticed your guys was like 308. But the point is, it's there. And see, we get to a point where we're singing the song. I loved what you guys were saying this morning. We get to a point where we're singing the song, but we're not really singing the song. We're saying the words, but we don't mean them right here in our heart. And that's where we've gotten off track. We have got off track. Listen, we all need to be revived. No exception. No exception. How many times have I heard people say, I'm just too busy to devote the amount of time that I need for revival? We're too busy for that heart-changing fire from God to change our lives. But I got to tell you, he talked about it just this morning. Are we too busy for our first love? If this is truly our first love, sorry, I have a hard time staying put. If this is really our first love, it's going to be all about. How many of you have ever had a date, had a girlfriend, wife? When you first get together, what do? You stay apart, don't you? No you don't. We couldn't be apart from each other. Not for 5-10 minutes without calling each other on the phone. We've lost our first love as a nation. We've lost our first love as a church. We have lost our first love. So it's time. It's time for the fire to spread. It's time for the fire to spread, and it starts right here. So I want to talk to you about Moses. Moses goes up the mountain. He's gone for a while. And guess what happens? The Israelites become discontented with the way things are going. Would you agree? They become discontented and they say, well, I don't know when Moses is going to come back, but I feel like something's wrong here. Hey, Aaron, how about we get together and we make an idol? That sounds like a good idea. So what does Aaron do? Aaron says, well, okay, why don't you go ahead and give me all your gold, and we'll go ahead and make an idol. So you know what? He knew better than that, didn't he? Well, he had seen the power of God working, but what happened was the Israelites became discontented with what God was doing. So Moses comes back down the mountain, and guess what? Uh-oh, we're in trouble. If you are still in Exodus chapter 32, we're going to start in verse 19. And as soon as he came near the camp and saw the calf and the dancing, Moses' anger burned hot. And he threw the tablets out of his hands and broke them at the foot of the mountain. He took the calf that they had made and burned it with the fire and ground it to powder and scattered it on the water, made the people of Israel drink it. And Moses said to Aaron, what did this people do to you that you have brought such great sin upon them? And Aaron said, let not the anger of my Lord burn hot. You know the people, that they are set on evil. For they said to me, make us gods who shall go before us. And for this, Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt. We do not know what has become of him." So I said to them, "Let any who have gold take it off." So they gave it to me, and I threw it in the fire, and out came this calf. Has anybody ever had anything spontaneously appear? Now, as kids, having kids in the house, I've had things spontaneously disappear. But I've never thrown food into a dish and poof, there it is, it's made. Has anybody ever done that? I can't say that I have. Verse 25, "And when Moses saw that the people had broken loose, for Aaron had let them break loose to the derision of their enemies, then Moses stood in the gate of the camp and said, 'Who is on the Lord's side? Come to me.' All the sons of Levi gathered around him, and he said to them, 'Thus says the Lord God of Israel, put your sword on your side, each of you, and go to and fro from gate to gate throughout the camp, and each of you kill his brother and his companion and his neighbor.' And the sons of Levi did according to the word of Moses. And that day about 3,000 men had fallen. And Moses said, 'Today you have been ordained for the service of the Lord, each one at the cost of his son and his brother, so that he might bestow a blessing upon you this day.'" In verse 30, "The next day Moses said to the people, 'You have sinned a great sin. And now I will go up to the Lord. Perhaps I can make atonement for your sin.' So Moses returned to the Lord and said, 'Alas, this people has sinned a great sin. They have made for themselves gods of gold. But now, if you will forgive their sin, but if not, please blot me out of your book that you have written.' But the Lord said to Moses, 'Whoever has sinned against me, I will blot out of my book.'" Do you remember in Exodus chapter 20 how the Israelites were so impressed, were so taken with the power of God? Do you recall that? Fast forward to chapter 32, and guess what? Not so much anymore. All of a sudden, they weren't impressed with God anymore. We're talking, what happened? Where did they go? Where did their faithfulness go? What about you? Do you remember when you first got saved? Do you remember, we were talking about the first love. You were in awe of God. Everybody, you were shaking the bushes. You wanted everybody to know God changed your life. What about this church? Were we once in awe of God? Are we still in awe of God? What about our communities? Are they in awe of God anymore? We were a nation founded on godly principles. Where did God go? God didn't leave, not because he wanted to. We pushed him out, right? We pushed God out because God's a gentleman. Number one point that I want to make is there was a need for revival, and there is a need for revival today. How do I know that the church needs revival? How do I know that I need revival? These are some questions that I created a small list that I want to show you a little bit about, and I want you to reflect on them. I want you to answer those questions to yourself. Do you feel like you need revival? One, I become discontented with the way things are going. You know, one of the things that it shows is it shows that we've stopped looking. It shows that we've stopped seeking. I'm not listening anymore, right? I'm not listening to God. I don't hear what he has to say. I'm not seeking him any longer. Are we discontented? Number two, I start looking to other gods and I push God aside. We're not talking about a golden calf here, right? We're talking about things. We're talking about careers. We're talking about relationships, things that are more important than God. Are things becoming more important than God? That's the question. I'm too busy to do my work or playing with my toys, and I don't have time to get together with God. It's the first thing I mentioned, right? We get to a point where we don't have a lot of time because we have so much to do. I begin to make excuses for my sin. Well, it's not that bad. When I look at Joe Blow down the street,